Okay. So please listen to the following teachings with the proper mind and motivation, which is to attain enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. We will now catch up from where we left off last week. I think last month is the following the teacher. So the subject. So the general the general caption, the general theme of this chapter is how to follow a spiritual friend or a teacher, and within that there are many different subcategories. The first of which is to examining the teacher. So we did the examination of the teacher last month, and now we will talk about after examining the teacher. So when we say examining the teacher, we are talking about examining the teacher to be, not your own teacher. So once you find a suitable person, you examine the person, whether that person is eligible for to become your guru. And once you accept that person as your guru, then you have to follow that teacher, that individual, in a certain way. So these are the steps that on how to follow the teacher. So today we will be talking about how to follow the teacher. So if you have the English book in English, it's on page number 143, and as I said, the chapter is following the spiritual, how to follow a spiritual friend, and the subcategory, the theme of this this particular teaching session is following the teacher. It's so let's begin from the book. It's page number 143 in English. So it reads here that following the teacher, noble one, you should think of yourself as someone who is sick. So basically, if you think that you have everything is all right with you, to begin with, if everything is okay, if everything is all right, there's no problem at all, then you probably do not need somebody to help you with, right? So to begin we begin to look for a teacher. We begin to look for a teacher because there's something lacking, something missing. So in ancient tongue, in the old in ancient time, in today's time we would say something is missing in my life. In those days we would say there is some kind of sickness within me. In any case, it's certain that there is something lacking, right? So if you think everything is perfect, everything is perfect with you, with your life, with everything that in your life, then you probably do not need a teacher. You probably do not need somebody to help you, to lift you up. So basically the work, the purpose of having a teacher is to, especially a spiritual teacher, is to lift you up spiritually, to uplift you from wherever or whatever situation that you are lying in. So the teacher should be able to lift you up. So I think we talked about this last month, that it doesn't matter whether the teacher is a famous or not, male or female, monk or not monk, or is a Tibetan or non-Tibetan. So all of these does not matter. So the main thing that a teacher is required to have is the ability to lift you up. So if there is an individual who can, through whose guidance you are able to lift yourself up, to get yourself from a low place to a higher place. If there is anyone who could do that, then that person is worthy of being your teacher. So, someone can be a great teacher for a lot of people, but not for you. And some people can seem like a bad teacher for a lot of people, but can be a good teacher for you. So it also depends on the karmic connection that you have with a particular person. Like during Buddha's time, there are a lot of people who do not actually respect, do not heed, do not listen, and always argue and always oppose, always criticize the Buddha. Not to mention his own cousin, Devadatta. So he was born in the same family as Buddha Shakyamuni, but he, from very early on, from his childhood times, is always competing with the Buddha, and so on and so forth. So if you do not have the karmic connection, no matter how famous, how not just famous, but actually a reliable, a good teacher can become invalid or useless for you because you have no karmic connection. So that's why we usually pray to have a good, to meet with the proper teacher. So when we pray to meet with the proper teacher, to meet with a good teacher, we're not just talking about meeting as in meeting face to face, but meeting as in being able to interact with and being able to receive the blessing. So when we say receive the blessing, we're not talking just about patting on the head or just receiving a protection string or something, some blessing pill or something like that. The real blessing, the meaning of blessing, the actual meaning of blessing is transformation. So to receive a blessing from a guru means to be able to transform yourself. So transform from yourself from a low state to a higher state. Basically, that's what it is. So that's why we pray that we are able to meet with the proper guru. So and that the guru be able to guide us out of samsara into the Buddhahood. So basically, we look for a teacher because there is something lacking in us, and first of all, it is important to realize there is something is lacking within us. And I think if you remember, we talk about when we take the refuge, there are the four attitudes we should have when we take refuge, which is to look at yourself as a sick person, and the Buddha as the doctor, physician, the Dharma as the medicine, and the Sangha as nurses. So similarly, the teacher, your guru, is the representative of the Buddha, because Buddha Shakyamuni is no more in this world, and most of the Buddhas, even though they are living in this world, we are not able to witness them in their actual form. So our teachers became the representative, the personification, the manifestation of the Buddhas in this world that we can interact with. So this is a very devotional teaching. So it deals with devotion a lot. So therefore, for some of us, for some of you who may be skeptical about this, so if you are skeptical about this particular teaching, you can just reserve it. Anyway, so I'm just going to explain how it is explained in the sutras, right? And so those of you who wish to follow with me, you can just do that as well. So Usually in the sutra, usually in the Dharma deals with two parts. One is with the wisdom aspect, one is with the method aspect, right? So the wisdom is all about gathering intelligence or sharpening your intelligence, and the method is all about developing your compassion, love, and um, warm-heartedness towards human beings. So when we develop warm-heartedness, there are two objects to develop warm-heartedness. One is towards sentient beings, and then one is towards what we usually refer to as the low and the high. So the low is the sentient beings, and then the high is the three jewels, the triple gem, right? So loving kindness towards the triple gem is regarded as devotion, and loving kindness towards sentient beings is regarded as compassion. So, the devotional practices is also a big part of Dharma practices. So for some people, devotional is all that there is to religious practices. And for some people, development of the wisdom is all there is for religious practice or spiritual practice. But to rely only on the wisdom aspect or only on the method or the compassionate aspect is lacking. So just like the Acharya Chandakirti, Master Chandakirti said that just like the birds soar into the sky with two wings, one must also have the two wings of the wisdom, understanding the emptiness, and the method, which encompasses compassionate attitude towards all sentient beings, or bodhicitta. So therefore, both are very important. So we will be talking more about the devotional aspect this time. Yeah. So with this attitude, we will follow. So now we are on page number 144. I think that's the fourth paragraph. So to follow the teacher, you should have so much confidence in him that you perceive him as a real Buddha. So I explained about this last month when we talked about the analyzing a teacher, investigating a teacher, right? Examining a teacher. So it is certain that Buddhas are working for the benefit of sentient beings even today. And if so, if you look for a Buddha, you will not be able to find a Buddha at all. No matter which person you go up and talk to them, you will find some kind of fault with them. No matter how much you love them, no matter how much you respect that person, no matter how much you care for that person, you will always find some fault with that person. Whether it's your children, whether it's your parents, you love them so much, you love them to the death, but you still find some kind of, you find them making some mistakes here and there. So, so that means it is not, our perception of reality, our perception of the people that we interact with, the people that we deal with, the people that we interact with are not true. Our perception of the reality, our perception of the reality of the people that we deal with are not 100% true. So just because we do not see a Buddha does not mean there is no Buddha out there. Our perception in general is flawed. Whether, even science proves that, right? When we look at a certain object, the object that appears to us and the reality of the object is always different. what appears to the naked eye, what appears to our naked eye, and what resides, or what is the reality that is out there, what exists in reality, are always different. And we always perceive things to be smaller. For example, if you look at a house outside our window, we will see the house to be much smaller. We will, we are able to kind of encompass that house in the small ring of a finger, if you look at that. But in actuality, the house is much bigger than the ring of my finger. But if you look at the house like this, actually the house will enter through and contain through the ring of my finger. So so this is just one example. Our perception of reality is always flawed. And because our perception is flawed, we draw conclusion, we conceptualize through what we experience in the so-called the real world, the outside world, what we see, what we hear, what we feel, what we touch, what we taste, what we smell, and so on and so forth. But all this interaction, the sensual interaction that we have with the world, is flawed, totally flawed. And if our interaction itself, our first-hand account of everything that we sense, is flawed, then the conclusion that we draw from the interaction, the direct perception of things that exist out there is also flawed for sure. So therefore, for that reason, just because we do not see a Buddha does not mean there are no Buddhas out there. And if we have to look for a Buddha, we cannot find a better candidate to be a Buddha than our teachers. So therefore, we use this the rationale of when all other rational conclusions or rational inferences fail, when all other forms of rational inferences exhaust, then whatever remains has to be the reality that we should be accepting. So therefore, the teacher is, we can draw from that this conclusion that our teachers are a real Buddha. So once so therefore that reason, perceiving your guru as a Buddha is not just a mere imagination. There is sound rationale behind that. So, and once you are able to, and once you decide to perceive your teacher as a real Buddha, then you should refrain from discriminating your teacher, criticizing, and so on and so forth. So you should feel immense love and compassion or devotion towards your teacher, and respect, and then follow the guidances that were given by your teacher, which is for your own good. So now we will go to page number 145, second paragraph. So there's a quote, there's a citation here. Be skilled in never displeasing the teacher. So this does not need to be need an explanation. So usually we try not to displease the teacher. We try to because whatever the teacher told us, the instructions given by teacher for us are for our own good. So for that reason, the teacher is displeased or becomes angry when you do not follow the instruction that the teacher gives, which is for your own good. So displeasing the teacher is like, for example, like displeasing your own parents, who is speaking on your behalf and for your own good. So, and never resent his rebukes like the perfect horse. So this is an example, from the olden times when, just like a good horse, you just, follow the coach, the jockey. Never be tired of coming and going like a boat. So whatever around that the teacher gives you, if he asks you to go up, just go up. If he asks you to come down, just come down. So keep going and coming, just like a boat, without any complaint. So, we drive our boat. When we go on a boat, we go on the boat for a whole day, no matter how many people you put on there. As much as the boat can carry, the boat never complains. So similarly, whatever around the teacher gives us, we must follow it without any complaint. Endure heat, cold, and whatever else, like an anvil. An anvil is where we make a sword, and where a locksmith and a goldsmith, ironsmiths make sword and other metal objects. So just like an anvil, you must endure heat and cold and everything else. Obey his every order like a servant. Cast off all pride like a sweeper. So this is from the line. This citation is from the ancient India, where a sweeper, someone who sweeps the house, a sweeper is a caste. They are one of the lowest caste. In India, in ancient India, there is the low caste and high caste. So the sweeper is the lowest caste, or one of the lowest caste. So cast off all pride like a sweeper. So think of yourself like a sweeper. So back in the day, ancient India time, in ancient India, not in the monastics, but in general households, people don't sweep or clean their house. So they would actually hire someone. A sweeper would come and sweep, clean the house. And these are the lowest of the lowest. So if you are born in the high caste, then you will not be sweeping, you will not be bowing down, and so on and so forth. Anyway, so cast off all pride like a sweeper. So when you are in front of your teacher, cast away all your pride, and be free of arrogance like a bull with broken horns. So it's said that when the bulls have true perfect horns, they are quite arrogant, because it kind of permits their machismo, their masculinity. And when they have a broken horn, they usually become very, they lose their confidence. They become, so just like a bull with broken horns, you must free yourself of arrogance in front of your teacher. This, the Pitaka says, is how to follow the teachers. The Pitaka is Pitaka means basket. So the Buddha's teaching, there are 84,000 volumes. It can be summed up in three baskets. The three baskets, and Pitaka means basket. So there are three baskets, or in the Sanskrit or in the Pali tradition, it's called Tripitaka. Three means three, and Pitaka means basket. The three baskets. So one basket is about developing wisdom. One basket is on developing meditation. One basket is on developing discipline. So intelligence, meditation, and discipline. So basically, Tripitaka or the Pitaka means Buddha's teaching. So Buddha's teachings in Sanskrit, as well as especially in the Pali tradition, in the Theravada tradition, Buddha's teaching, you don't refer to the Buddha's teaching as the Buddha's teaching, you call them the Tripitakas, right? That basically means the Buddha's teaching. So all in all, this is telling us how to follow a teacher, what not to do in front of your teacher. And if you For example, it says to be like must be like a anvil, you must be like a bridge, you must be like a boat, and so on and so forth. You must be like a servant and sweeper. So it becomes very, very difficult, right? So if you, especially from today's point of view, where everybody wants, looks at everybody, everyone looks at each other as to be equal and so on and so forth. It's very difficult to to keep such a motivation, to keep such an attitude of devotion, and that's why in today's time it's very difficult to have spiritual realization. So when I say these things, it might sound like I'm scaring people, like I'm trying to force people to respect the teacher and so on and so forth. I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about in general. This is how one should revere and respect a teacher, Dharma teacher. And so the more devotion you can generate, the more devotion you can cultivate towards your teacher, easier it will be, much swifter it will be for you to gain realizations. And if you look at the stories of Milarepa and many other great masters, you will see that it's not just the gathering of knowledge or information alone that actually made them realize things. It was actually devotion towards their guru that made them able to gain realization, insight into reality, and so on and so forth. So for that reason, it's no one is forcing you to follow it in this way. If you want to follow the teacher in a proper manner, the traditional manner, that is how you do it. If you do it, there will be benefits. If you do not do it, there will the benefits will no longer be there. But it's still up to you. You don't have to. There is no rule of law in Buddhism saying you must follow your teacher this and this and that way. There is no one is forcing you that. If you want to follow your teacher the proper way, that is how you do it. If you do not want to follow, you don't have to follow it. There's no no one enforcing you to do that. So as we discussed earlier, our conceptions, our perceptions are always illusory, and not so reliable. So therefore, just because we see some flows in our gurus does not mean the flows are actually out there. In reality, it can be your own misconceptions and illusions and ignorance manifesting in the out there, in the person that you adore, devote, fathom the most, which can be your guru. So there were the stories of many great masters. For example, like the story of the Tilopa and Naropa. The Naropa we know from the last year we went by the book by Master Gampopa, whose teacher is Master Milarepa, whose teacher is Marpa, and Marpa's teacher is Naropa. So Naropa, in his time, in his prime, he was the one of the most famous, let's say, most popular scholar in all of Nalanda University. So Nalanda is one of the greatest and oldest university in the world, and in its prime, Nalanda has about 60,000 staff members, students, and anyway, it's a very big institution. So Nalanda is a great institution. It not only teaches Buddhism, it teaches astronomy, It teaches science, it teaches mathematics, it teaches everything. So anyway, so Naropa is a great scholar and one of the most popular scholar in the great institute, Great Nalanda University. And so after much accomplishment in the academic field, he was not satisfied because he felt that after learning so much of the philosophy and everything, the sciences, the philosophy and everything, there is something lacking in his life. And he does do spiritual practices, and especially he does tantric Vajrayana practices. So in one of his visions with his Yidam or his deity, the deity directed him to go and seek Tilopa, and that will actually give him all the answers. That will actually make him gain realizations. And so it is said that Tilopa lives in the eastern side of India. And Naropa set off immediately at that time. And then when he reached the eastern side, eastern part of India, he asked the local people where the great master Tilopa lived. And then nobody knows about where great master Tilopa. So everybody said, we never heard of somebody called the great master Tilopa. And he asked around, and nobody knows about the great master Tilopa, great sage Tilopa, or the great tantric Tilopa. Nobody knows about that. And then he asked around, and he was quite sure that Tilopa was there because his deity actually directed him there. And he asked around, and then people said, okay, we do not know about a great teacher called Tilopa, but there's a beggar, an outcast. So usually people who are driven out of the society, who are not allowed to live in the society, outcast, someone who is considered very dirty, very unruly, and a rowdy person. So there is someone called Tilopa the outcast, or Tilopa the beggar. Maybe you just go and check that out. And then Naropa thought, because Naropa is a very knowledgeable person, so he thought the Mahasiddhas, the great saints, their actions are incomprehensible. Their actions are, their behaviors are incomprehensible, and it is unpredictable. So just because they behave in a certain way does not mean that they are this and that. So we cannot draw a conclusion merely from their appearance. So therefore he went out anyway to look for the beggar. And then they asked him where he asked people where he lived, and they showed the house, and he saw that Tilopa was sitting on a wooden tub, like a bathtub, and the tub is filled with fish, and some fish are alive, some fish are already dead. And one by one, Tilopa was doing this, snapping his finger, and then took out the fish, and then grilled the fish, and he was eating them. And then right away, Naropa went down and prostrated in front of Tilopa and asked him to accept as a disciple. And Tilopa said, "What are you talking about? I'm just a beggar. I'm an outcast. Get out. Go away from here." And Naropa was very persistent, and he said, he was very persistent, and he won over. And Tilopa accepted him as his student, and there was there's something called the trials of Naropa. So Naropa went through a lot of hardship after, he was a great scholar. He already made his name, an accomplished scholar, one of the leading scholar of not just of Nalanda University but of the country at that time. But still, there was something lacking in him, and he went to look for Tilopa, and Tilopa actually tested him several times, and then he was able to, as we all know the story, Naropa was able to gain realization into the inside of reality, not through meditation, not through all this knowledge and everything, but by slapping of the sleeper. Tilopa slapped Naropa with a shoe, and that was his awakening moment. That was his that was the moment he got awakened. So I mean, that is not for all of us. Not each one of us are ready for this kind of thing. But what I'm trying to tell here is that these are, devotion to the teacher is of utmost importance. And if you have your devotion towards the teacher, if you don't have the devotion, if you don't have those things in a proper manner, then no matter how learned, no matter how much knowledge you have, how much popular you are, you still, there's some emptiness, some hollow within yourself. And once you have the devotion, then you are able to gain insight into the reality, gain realization, and reach enlightenment right away, even by slapping of a shoe. So therefore, so basically these are the, it tells us how important it is to have devotion. Okay. So there are many more stories, more devotional stories, but lack of time, so we will stop here for today. Do we have any questions?
We do not have questions today so far, Rinpoche.
Okay, so then we will conclude here for now, for today.
Unless you don't want to ask right now. Okay, maybe not today, Rinpoche.
Okay, thank you. Then we will do the dedication. I'm afraid I don't have the slide today. Yewan de Nyodon Nama Sowa Jinyama Ye Sala Ngeba Yewan Yamba Meba Mi